As you can imagine, there are two things that really do matter when it comes to your resume. Number one, your resume must have a narrative. Let me explain. Your resume is not simply a chronological list of facts. It's a story, the story of you. What story do you want to tell with your resume? When you, as a hiring manager picks up your resume, how long do you have? How long does that hiring manager give you and your resume? Anybody know? 10 seconds. When I have asked for resumes to be submitted to me, I give them about 10 seconds. And you know what? By the end, I was so frustrated because they were so bad that I was actually looking for ways to disqualify them. Now, you can get mad and angry, and I posted a comment. Someone said, "That's outrageous. I expect you to give me at least a full 5 minutes." Well, you can expect what you want, but that's not the way the world works. The real way the world works is you get 10 seconds, okay? So you must have a narrative, because when I put your resume down, what is the story that I remember about you? Now, let me ask all of you. Right now, if you have your resume in front of you, which, by the way, you would have been smart to prepare, let's pretend that I have never seen you before. I read your resume for 10 seconds and I put it down. What is the impression I have of you? Take 20 seconds and type it on the screen. What is your story? Remember, not your story. What is the story of you that I infer? What is the story of you that I get? Write it down. Worker B, Jan, same as everyone. Not enough experience. Boring recent college grad. Moved around. Someone says amazing. Okay, great. All right, so a lot of these comments, we're going to talk about a narrative. I'm going to show you. And number two, every word must earn its way onto the page. Okay, when I was in college, I had a course, and it was basically an introductory course to my major, STS 101. And the professor, Professor McGinn, was a very interesting guy. On one of our early assignments, we had to take some news article and basically write some kind of ethical argument, analyzing it. And we got about 3 pages to do that. Then the next week, we had to take a similar article and do it in 1 page. Now, what was fascinating about this was he was ruthless. Many people got C's on this. Now, keep in mind, my classmates, many of them had never gotten a C on anything in their lives. Okay? They were freaking out. But his point, which was so profound, I still remember it, was cut the fat. Filet mignon. That's it. We just want the best of the best. Cut it down to 1 page. And so this isn't just about the length of your resume. This is about every single word needing to be picture perfect. That's why I spent 100+ man hours on my resume. And that's the level of expectation I have for you. Yes, I'm going to make a great Asian parent because my kids are going to know that the level of expectation is boom, up here. Tiger Mom, you don't got shit on what's about to hit with my kids in the future. Okay, so the point is, what words do you use? How do you use them? What is the whole narrative you're crafting? All right, so here we go. Let's get to it, all right? So number one, let's dig into this. Your resume must have a narrative. We just talked about this. Scan your resume for 10 seconds, then put it down. What would I remember about you? And for many of us, we talked about this, okay? By the way, look at this person. Glad you're not my dad. Anybody think that's kind of an interesting little slip of the tongue? Why is that? You're glad I'm not your dad because what? Because in your head, what you're creating is a false dichotomy. Ramit would be totally mean, and he would make me feel bad about myself. What's another way to frame what we just discussed? Instead of, I would make you feel bad about yourself and constantly berate you. What's another way to frame that? I would challenge you. I wouldn't let you accept mediocrity. Okay? I would push you to be your best because very few people in this world do. Very few people call us out on our own bullshit, right? And that's what I want to do here. That's why I'm not, the whole point of this is I could sit here and, I've gotten very good at this. I can walk into an interview and close it. What's the good in keeping that to myself? I want to share that with you. So again, I'm not trying to come down hard on you. But I do want you to know that I care, right? I care about all of us in reaching our potential. So I don't want you to create false dichotomies. Like, for example, many of us right now in our heads are thinking, well, that's fine. I didn't go to Stanford. Well, that's not the point. This stuff worked for me before I went to that school, and it worked for a lot of my friends who didn't go to any elite level universities. Okay, I've tested this all on them. So I want you guys to understand why am I calling you out on certain things. It's really not out of just, it doesn't make me feel good, all right? What makes me feel good is seeing results, is seeing testimonials, is seeing the people who came into this chat room and said, like, I took Earn 1K and it was the best thing I ever did. That makes me feel good, okay? All right, I just want to be clear on that. All right, so is your answer, when you ask yourself, what would a guy like me, a hiring manager, do? Is it impressive? Is it unique? Is it memorable? For many of us, no, it's not. And if that's the case, you've already lost, and here's why. The competition is fierce out there. When I have a friend of mine, she works at a nonprofit. She put out a Craigslist ad for a receptionist, like someone at the front, and the pay was like $38,000, okay? She received hundreds and hundreds of applicants. There were even some Stanford grads in there, okay? This was in the Bay Area. The competition is absolutely fierce. Now, if you do not stand out instantly, you're done. Why? I want you to put it this way. Why would a hiring manager hire you over anyone else? There are people who would work for less. There are people who have more experience. Why? You have to find an edge, okay? And by the way, that edge does not have to mean that you have to have 10 years of experience. I have personally beat out people with years more experience. And not just me. I've taught my students how to do the same thing. There are actually 4 critical techniques on how to do that. So it's not just about experience. It's not just about what school you went to. There are things you can do that will make you stand out. All right? All right, so let's keep going. Your narrative must be obvious and consistent. What do I mean by that? Why do I choose those words so carefully? Obvious means don't expect them to do your work for you. You must make it clear in the words you use what your narrative is. Okay? Now, consistent, meaning each word, each job description you write about must reinforce that narrative. You can't just say, for example, oh, I'm the guy who's extremely good at improving conversions on a website. Oh, and by the way, I'm also an expert video game player. What? That's so weird. How does that add to it? I played video games for 3 years professionally. That's kind of weird. So we need to make it consistent, okay? Don't make me guess. The way you can figure this out, by the way, is to simply take your resume, improve it, take it to 5 people and say, all right, read this for 10 seconds, put it down. Okay, if you had to describe me in 1 or 2 sentences, what would you say? Okay? You guys see that? That is a micro test. How many of you would ever have done a micro test by taking your improved resume, taking it to 5 random people, your friends, your mom, whatever, and then seeing what they do? Okay? I did that with my comedy columns, and it was very productive. Let's talk about rule number 2, because I want to get to the teardowns. Every word must earn its way onto the page. Here's an action step. Randomly select one line from anywhere on your resume. And then ask yourself, why is this here? What is the point of this? What am I saying in plain English? Not fancy resume words, but what does this actually do for me? What is the message you're trying to convey? In other words, your narrative. And does this random line that you picked support it? For example, if I'm the technology and psychology guy, then the fact that I studied social influence and persuasion at this college and did this, that definitely supports my point. But otherwise, if I'm just like, oh, I'm an expert bike rider, does that support my narrative? Maybe not. All right, here we go. Let's continue on. Look at these phrases. It couldn't hurt. How many people have said something like, oh, I'll just add that, couldn't hurt? Anyone here ever said that? Okay, let's talk about this. It could hurt. Every additional word you use that does not add to your message does hurt. Why? You have 10 seconds. You think you can afford all this worthless nonsense? No, you have 10 seconds to capture their attention. That means you remove everything ruthlessly, like with a machete, that is not directly relevant to your message. Now let's talk about some messages. I saw some people that were saying something like, oh, my message is that I'm a really hard worker. No, that's not a message. That's a narrative that every single person has. As someone here pointed out, you might as well say you can breathe and walk. That's pointless. For me, I was a technology and psychology guy. Maybe you're the sales guy. Maybe you're the girl who can burrow her way into companies and find the right person to talk to. or you're an expert researcher. You can find anything on the planet. What is your narrative? Okay? It cannot be just something that any out of 100 people that 50 people would have. Working hard, trying hard, showing up on time, that's BS. Everyone has that. Give me something new. All right? Let's keep going. Without a narrative, your resume is just words. This is what I most commonly see. People will have strung together all these things, but there's no narrative that ties it together. So as a result, I look at it, and maybe even it's a very good resume. A lot of good words, but remember, there are 500 other resumes. Who is this person? Where do they stick out in my mind? This is positioning, okay? So the key lesson is craft your narrative and make every word earn its place. That is your key lesson, okay? Who here, I'd like everyone to take 20 seconds and write down right here in the chat, what could your narrative be? I'm not asking you to pick one that's going to last forever. What could your narrative be? I was the technology and psychology guy who knew a lot about marketing. What would yours be? Makes complex things easy to understand. That doesn't mean anything. Jack of all trades, worthless. Optimization freak, very good. Visual persuader, very good. Guys, stop using bold and underlines. We're going to ban you if you're being... Come on. What are you trying to market yourself in a chat? Get a life. Creative storyteller doesn't mean anything. Interior design expert, very good. Software engineer that saves your QA department time and money. I love you. Okay, good. Good. Come on, guys. Someone said artist, business and software engineer that connect with consumers. Very good.